Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me, Josh Mansfield. It is Tuesday, January 14th. Josh, I'm sorry. The Broncos season has come to an end.
It's all right, Charlie.
It was a good year, though.
I'm not even mad. We made the playoffs, and we did it in a division that had that sent three teams to the playoffs.
Yeah.
If you'd have said at the beginning of the season that the NFC or AFC West was going to have three teams in the playoffs, like I bet I could have taken you for a lot of money. Granted, I wouldn't have made that bet.
Listen, wildcard round sucked.
They did suck.
It sucked. His teams were terrible.
There wasn't a single upset, was there? I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4 seeds on both divisions.
No, I want to say the Commanders upset the Bucks.
You're right. Commanders weren't. You're right. I think that was the only upset.
But that was not exactly much of an upset. I think the spread was like minus 2.5 or something.
I forgot that they weren't the top seed. So yeah.
That's it for football. But
yeah,
Josh,
we're talking a different sport.
We got to talk a little bit about this thing. So the golf league.
Mm-hmm. It's TGL.
What is TGL? Because I knew nothing about this until you texted me last week and you're like, hey, check this thing out. And I flipped on ESPN and I see this crazy new golf thing that I have never seen. What is it? What's the deal?
So it's TGL. It's the Tech Golf League.
Oh, Golf League.
I think it's a Tech Golf League. I think. It's a league that's run by Rory and Tiger. And it was supposed to happen last year, but I guess the venue had flooding or something, like the roof caved in or something. So it didn't end up working out. So they had to postpone it a year. So Rory and Tiger put this together, and it's got 6 teams of 4 golfers each who come together for sim matches. And they're on this. If you go look at you just got to at least look at a picture. It's in this big arena. The screen is over 5 stories tall. They bring in real grass and sand from Augusta to hit off of.
They bring it in from Augusta? I didn't hear that. That's hilarious.
They said I think I know the sand is. I think the grass was as well, because that's what Tiger wanted. And so they bring in grass and sand from Augusta, and they hit off of that, and they hit into the screen, and then they have a green that's on hydraulics and rotates to match what's on the sim. And there's music playing, and it's there's a 40-second shot clock that has a heartbeat start coming over the speakers at 15 seconds and gets faster and faster if you're getting close. The players are always hot mic'd. They always have a mic on. They have to answer interviews and questions during the round. They have timeouts. It's unlike anything in the world of golf for sure. It honestly felt like a crossover, and maybe it's in part with the simulator, but it really felt like an esports competition combined with golf, right? Because it's easy to follow. It's on a giant screen. It's not like you're missing action because you're higher up. Now the seating already was, not a traditional stadium seating, but it's it was very easy as a viewer at home to understand the context of golf shots, which isn't always the case when you're watching golf. It was pretty remarkable. It was unfortunate that it was such a bad blowout. The Bay Golf Club or whatever beat New York 9-1 or 9-2 or something. So it was just a beatdown. But it's match play golf. It's alternate stroke followed by then individual match play. It all takes place in under 2 hours. If you start at half an hour late and skip the commercials on ESPN Plus, you can have it done in an hour and 20 minutes. I'm watching it again tonight, and Tiger's playing tonight, so I'm excited.
Wow. I am sort of curious to watch Tiger play, but
right?
I think it's very interesting. I think the idea of a simulator spectator product is a little bit weird. I get that it's some sort of hybrid of esports and actual golf, but I have a hard time buying into the team concept. And while I think the giant screen sim looks really fun to play, I would love to go and play on that sim and then putt on the green that changes every hole. Sure. It's super cool, but I can't buy in on this as a spectator product. It just who is say who is the market, and maybe it's you, someone who likes to play golf and especially likes to play golf on a simulator because it's much faster.
Yep, it's faster, and for winter, it's amazing. I've golfed and gotten to do outdoor recreation without having to bundle up more than I ever have. I love it. It's interesting because I have friends who are golfers who went on and watched this, and they're also like, one of them is diehard, follows the PGA tour, and
Sure.
I was interested to hear what he thought, and he's like, I was very skeptical when I watched this, and I left mildly pleased, and like he's like, I'm gonna watch the rest of it.
Okay.
And so he's like, I probably I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in a blowout. But like Shane Lowry, for example, hits a shot, and he goes, oh man, that chip was a little chunky like me, and that's just like stuff you don't hear in golf. Ricky Fowler threw the pole, the flag down in front of Shane's putt when he'd already lost the hole. Like they iced Xander by
you can like
calling
ice
a timeout.
people, right?
Yeah,
you can take a timeout.
so like
it's goofy, man.
It was goofy. It's kind of funny.
It's fun. I think everybody should check it out though, because the ESPN production is it's quite good. I was very impressed with how ESPN presented it.
I hope they never interview DJ Khaled again for anything.
Oh, did they interview him?
Oh, it was bad.
Did he just say "we the best" a bunch?
No, he's talking about like the way golf and life, man.
Oh my gosh, they're
tough.
really trying to make it seem cool by having a celeb.
I think DJ Khaled put money into it.
That makes sense.
And so he kind of earned the right to be interviewed. It's like yeah. It's kind of like when Dave Dunapace gets to do marketing ads for Innova. Like he's as the founder, you kind of just have to let him.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we got a fun show today. The Climo stuff is out. It's public. A brand new brand, Climo Disc Golf. It's got its own discs. They are not shy about sharing the connection with Discraft. Discraft is making these discs. This is a sub-brand of Discraft, excuse me. And today, like 30 minutes ago, because we're recording this Tuesday morning, they released the first 3 discs, but you still can't buy them. We had the announcement of the announcement, and then we got the announcement of the sale coming tomorrow, at which point people will be able to buy them. So they have 3 prototype discs out. We will talk about those, and just the whole rollout of this whole thing after our interview with Cale Leiviska. Cale also making a move from another brand to Discraft. He's not connected to this Climo stuff. So I think understandably so. And we were talking about this a bit, maybe an idea that Discraft was trying to like collect a number of older players and kind of do a co-marketing thing with them. At least for now, that's not the case. Like this is Climo's thing 100% right now. That's how it's marketed. He's in all of the, he's the model for all the clothes. Like it is Climo to the max. But Cale has some really interesting stuff going on too. And we will talk to him about leaving Prodigy. What's the deal with his ownership stake? What's he planning to do on the course this year? The Preserve, a whole lot more. It's an awesome interview. It's coming up next right here on The Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Well, the Rufus Custom Builder is now better than ever. Rufus, my bag, I love it so much. You got to get one, and you can get it exactly how you want it to look with the Custom Builder. It now comes standard with double convertible long haul pockets and lower detail zipper pockets. And you can also add upper detail pockets if you want. You can also change the zippers if you want a really chunky zipper because you really use your bag hard. You can add that. More color options available. And restock of a bunch of fabric colors along with the new 3-color PVC patch in Coyote, Sage, and Bordeaux. Absolutely beautiful bags, looking like you will just like camouflage yourself into the desert landscape. Check it all out at pounddiscgolf.com. Joining us now on the Upshot is Cale Leiviska. He's got a lot of things going on. Founded the Preserve, started the course there in Minnesota, and a couple-time NT winner. and joining us today. So, Cale, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning, boys. Good morning.
Good morning. So, certainly a very interesting off season for you and others. And I just wanted to check in and kind of get a sense of like, if perhaps people felt like Climo leaving Innova was a bigger story or like surprise than you leaving Prodigy, but I'm not totally sure I agree. You felt like somebody who was synonymous with Prodigy. What drove your decision to move on and make a return to Discraft at this stage in your career?
Wow. Well, first off, I think Climo is probably a bigger story than than anybody in disc golf. And yes, it has been a very wild off season on many fronts. But yeah, to answer your question, you know, there's just so much that went into it. You know, so much history here. I was one of the original founders of Prodigy back in 2013, so I've been with them for 12 years. You know, I'm very close with everybody there. Michael, Esther, Will. They're some of my, you know, closest friends, and it was not an easy decision for sure. But, you know, before Prodigy, I started my career with Discraft. That's what I started throwing when I started playing disc golf, and was sponsored by Discraft for about 7 years. And, you know, I don't even know where to start. You know, there's just everything with Prodigy. You know, we had so much history together. We did so much good stuff. There was, you know, the last few years, there was just some question marks within the company about which way, you know, which direction things were heading. If you go back to about 2020, I had my contract up at that point, and that was like a very busy year in disc golf. Obviously, you know, the pandemic had just happened. I had just personally started the preserve and kind of created this new shift in my career where I was really focused on building up my, you know, the private course and kind of putting all my energy into that. And my contract was up, and I was actually, you know, in communications with Bob at Discraft at that time about potentially joining. You know, he gave me a really, really great offer at that time. I've been close with Bob and Mike for many, many years. And I was really close to making the move at that time. And Prodigy kind of came over the top and kind of made an offer that I couldn't refuse at that point. And, you know, something to say about Discraft. I remember calling Bob and just being like, hey, you know, I hope I didn't waste your time, but I am going to stick with Prodigy. And Bob was so genuinely happy for me that, you know, I had gotten such a great offer, and there was no disappointment on his end. He was just genuinely happy for me. And that kind of showed me a lot about Discraft. And what I've come to learn about them is, you know, they're an unbelievable business, right? They're huge in the disc golf industry. But they genuinely care about growing the sport of disc golf. And they're making moves every day to promote the game, to promote the history of the sport, to do things that support, you know, legends of the game. And they obviously care about running a successful business, but they're just doing so much for the game, and they're creating this culture within their team. And it was too good to pass up at this point. You know, there was a couple of question marks with Prodigy and the way the company was heading, and Michael and Esther, who were kind of running the company, were kind of starting to take a step back the last couple of years. And I was at a part of my career where, you know, I'm 41 years old now. I don't have forever to keep playing, and I just wanted to get the most out of my career and get the most out of my businesses as well, with the course design and everything. And the opportunity with Discraft came up again this off season. And after a lot of contemplation, and it was not an easy decision, it was something that I just couldn't pass up. Sorry, it was kind of a long-winded answer. I hope that answered a little bit.
That's great. That's great. I was under the impression, and I'm now wondering if it was just pure rumor that I believed, but I was under the impression that you had some sort of an ownership stake in Prodigy. Was that true? And if so, what happened with that stake when you moved over to Discraft?
Yes, that is true. So when we started Prodigy, all of the original core team members were given 10,000 shares. So at that time, it was essentially 1% of the company. And then we were also given the option to buy in for additional shares, which me and Will and a couple of the other players did at that time. So I ended up accumulating 25,000 shares total, which at that time was like 2.5% of the company. Things got diluted a little bit at some point, but still probably around 2%. But so yes, technically I do have ownership of the company, and things are kind of so fresh, and everything kind of just happened within the last 45 days or so. So that's actually something that we haven't even brought up yet, is what's going to happen with those shares. So I really am not sure what's going to happen there yet.
Do you feel like Prodigy is worth more now than 5 years ago?
Than 5 years ago?
Yeah.
I mean, 5 years ago puts us at the beginning of 2020.
Essentially like pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, yes, I would say so, for sure. The Prodigy's takes such a PR beating, I feel like, every off season, or every time a player chooses to leave. And I think that's not really, that's definitely not the full story of the company, right? I mean, obviously, each manufacturer wants to have great players on their team, but the health of the company, Prodigy is making great discs. They're doing new innovative things with different industries that they're partnering with all the time, and so I would say that, yes, I would say they're probably worth more now than they were pre-COVID.
I'm curious, do you feel like there are times that Prodigies deserve the criticism? I mean, they've certainly made some controversial decisions, even if, ultimately, maybe they were right about suing Gannon and saying, hey, you have to play out your contract. That's the point of a contract. That's obviously something also that's probably going to bring some criticism. Absolutely. So do you feel like some of it's deserved?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, Prodigy, they've been around for 12 years, essentially. They've made a ton of mistakes, a lot of stuff that they could learn from, some issues with quality control, things like that on the discs and the baskets, and things that they are addressing. But yeah, absolutely, some of the criticism is deserved. But I think a lot of the stuff with the PR, with the team, the Gannon situation, that's tough. I still don't know what the best course of action is there, because if people are not allowed to honor their contracts and it just keeps on happening, then what does a contract even mean? Can a company just stop paying a player then, So, but is suing essentially a kid great in anyone's eyes? No, probably not. But again, I still don't know what the best course of action was there. But as far as the PRs of players coming and going, it happens with pretty much every company, and Prodigy is a lot smaller than Discraft, than Innova, than some of these companies that have been around for a lot longer. So, players coming and going, I think that's just what's bound to happen with a smaller company.
You said back in 2020 that when you had an offer from Discraft, Prodigy came over the top and offered you more. Did that happen again this year?
Essentially, I don't know how much information I could technically be sharing, but I'll just be blunt about it. I essentially had I was under like a 3-year contract, and I had an opt-out clause, essentially. So my contract wasn't necessarily up with Prodigy, but there was a couple things that happened this year, specifically with basket stuff. I do a lot of course design, course building and stuff, and Prodigy, there was about a 6-month span when we weren't, having baskets essentially for me to use for my projects. I was having to order from other places, and there was a couple things that happened, and so I sat down with Bob and Mike and Jim and Shane, some of the people that I respect the most at Discraft, and this was towards the end of the season, and we just had a conversation. They weren't trying to pitch me on anything. We just talked about a lot of stuff, And I kind of made up my mind in that conversation that, it's not really about the complete dollars and cents at this point. I did end up getting a great offer from Discraft, but even if, Prodigy would have, again, come over the top, I just think this is the right fit for me at this point. I really, respect these guys. I love this company. And again, like I said, I'm so close with Ulibarri and Macbeth and then some of the younger guys, Barella, Hamas. I love the team. And if you saw, Discraft, there was not one person that left this offseason. There's a lot of people whose contracts were up. And there was a shift in the industry. I'm sure, I don't know for certain, but I'm sure some of the players were given a little bit less, but everyone chose to stay because of the direction and the culture within the company. So it was, at this point in my career, I just couldn't pass it up.
I want to ask about the Discraft contract specifically then, and comparing it to the 2020 contract offer. Was this year as good as 2020? Or because, given, as we know, the market is done, was it reduced from what that original offer was?
That's a good question. Mine was essentially more or less the same. I'm in a different spot because I don't need everything like monetarily. Like I am under salary. I do get a salary, but I have my airborne tour. I have my pro shops, my website. So I'm able to kind of turn product into income as well. And then on the other side, my course design business has really been taken off like the last 4 or 5 years. And so I was able to, kind of work in, new aspects of me working with new baskets, things I'm going to be able to do well with there. And then also, help implement Discraft's course design program as well and kind of be at the forefront of that. So there's just, all the different angles. It ended up being a better contract. Yes.
Yeah, you've got a lot of stuff going on, and we can dig into some of them specifically. But I want to go back to the Preserve, which you sold earlier this year, or I guess 2024, last year. That you build this property. It's this beautiful, like, kind of unique course on tour. It's like a lot of open space, but still challenging, but very birdie friendly. And, it's become a favorite stop on tour. Why sell? Were you unable to make the financials work?
No, there was nothing about the financials. The Preserve has been doing just fantastic since we opened in 2020. It had nothing to do with that. It's a little bit about my personality, I guess. I have to be pouring my energy into something at all times. And 2020, we started it. 2020, 21, 22, we were putting so much work into it collectively with, so many volunteers and people helping us up there. And we just put, 160 acre property requires so much energy. It's hard to it's way more than I could even fathom. Right. And, I was happy to put that much energy into it for years. I love doing it. I love being up there. We even my family moved closer to the Preserve so I could spend more time up there. But I was like turning 38, 39 a couple years ago. And I remember being like, I'm spending so much time up here and I really want to be playing more. I want to be dedicating more time to other aspects of my career. And, the Preserve just didn't allow that. The thing just takes up so much time and energy. And also my wife and I were about to have a baby. About that time, we found out we were pregnant. And so we wanted to move closer to my parents on the east side of the Twin Cities. And it was kind of a perfect storm of me wanting to have more time for my family and for other things. And, I didn't know what to do. I was considering shutting the place down. And Charlie from Gotta Go, Gotta Throw was essentially like, we can't do that. The Preserve Championship is far too important for the Minnesota community. So we were able to negotiate a deal, and he kind of took over everything that I was doing there, all the business side of things, and bought me out. And then it's best case scenario because I got what I wanted out of it and had a few great years there. But the Preserve is still going strong, and the Minnesota community still gets the Preserve Championship, and it's a win-win.
As someone who, you kind of described when you were talking about the Discraft contract, and I think this includes the Preserve. You ran a tournament with a private property. You are doing course design. You have product sales. You also still are a touring player, and playing disc golf competitively as well. So you really are kind of involved in every facet of the disc golf industry right now. What has your perception been of the slowdown? How badly has it affected your side of things? What is your outlook for this year and the next 2-3 years, maybe 5 years? I just think you have a unique perspective over a lot of touring players.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think about this all the time because I keep hearing about this, the slowdown. And I think mainly what it attributes to is that there's been a downtick in manufacturer sales, right? That's like something that we can equate monetarily, and we can see, okay, sales are down. And I'm not sure if that necessarily means that the sport is taking a step back. I really don't know if that's true, because in my eyes, we had more spectators than we've ever had last year at the Preserve Championship, right? Minnesota is a very strong disc golf state, stronger than a lot around the U.S. So again, I didn't see it with spectator sales. I'm not seeing it with my events that we run on our airborne tour. Our events are 250 players deep, and they're filling up within a week or two in January. So our tournaments are still filling up. I think what potentially might be happening, and this is just I'm not saying for sure, I don't know, but I think 2020, 2021, discs were so scarce that everyone bought up everything they could. Retailers bought up everything they could. Consumers did. Any disc that was made, that were literally all these companies were printing or making discs in the factory, putting them in boxes and shipping them out. They were not even hitting the shelves. So I think everyone just had so many discs that I think things kind of leveled out and people stopped buying as much. And then all of a sudden, the retailers were left with a bunch of discs, so they're not buying them from the manufacturer as much. The consumers are able to, buy them on Facebook and on eBay or wherever people are buying them. And so I think the manufacturers were probably selling a little bit less, but I don't know if that necessarily means that that people are buying less discs in general. I think it just might be from the manufacturers, and that's just totally a theory. But our courses in Minnesota are still packed every single day. I still see people playing in the middle of the winter in the snow. I can't speak for the rest of the country, but I think disc golf is doing just fine from my perspective.
It's a great way to look at it. I think when you get used to a certain level of sort of briskness of sales, then even if it's coming down off the highs, we're still way above where we were 5 years ago. It's interesting. People will adjust. Disc golf's going to be fine.
That's what I'm thinking. And then one more thing that I just thought of is the course design. I'm still getting 3-4 emails a month about doing site visits and new counties and cities across the U.S. that want courses put in. So that seems super healthy as well. It seems like more and more courses are going to keep getting built, which is obviously going to create more and more players. So I think, like you said, I think we're going to be okay.
How much of the new deal with Discraft is centered around course design, and are you just doing your own thing and that's like your own business, or is it getting integrated into Discraft in some way beyond just using their baskets, for instance?
It's a little bit of both. I'm still allowed to do my own thing. Discraft obviously has a ton going on right now, so we haven't fully finalized everything with the course design program that they're going to create. But it's just, I think, like you said, I'm kind of involved in every aspect of the disc golf industry. So I think, for them, that's appealing. I'm putting in courses all the time. I've been selling hundreds of baskets a year for about 5, 6, 7 years now. And that's, brand recognition and getting baskets on courses. And, there's just I think, it was just, it's given the history that I have with them and how they value growing the sport, and the things that I'm bringing to the table in that light are pretty valuable to them as well.
Going in for this coming season, you obviously still are a player, and you told us off the show that you're going to be going to the Memorial this weekend. What do you consider to be some of your on-course goals and hoping to achieve? I know you've been playing some, like age-protected masters as well, and so majors, and so I'm just curious to know what you envision as kind of your role as a player, or your career as a player this year.
Yeah, I still, playing disc golf is still the most important thing to me. That's the thing that I wake up in the morning and want to get better at still, and go practice and go play with friends. And I've had to kind of balance that with all the other stuff that I've been doing the last 5 years. And I really want to, bring my competition back up to become the main thing again this year and for the next few years while I still can. Like I said, I'm 41 years old now. I know, when I was 20, I would have thought 41 was a dinosaur, but I still feel really good. I still feel the hunger to compete, and I'm inspired by, all the young competitors that are out there just crushing it every week. And I know I'm still, one of the best players in the world. I'm still rated over 1030, and I know, most people in the disc golf community, don't care how I finish at a local B tier, which rightfully so. Why would they? But that's mainly what I've been playing the last couple of years is local, regional B tiers, A tiers, and a few pro tours sprinkled in. So what I really want to do is, I just signed up for 7 disc golf pro tour events. I'm preparing my wife to get ready for July so we can go to Europe for a few weeks as a family and compete in a couple majors. I really, while I'm still able to, want to get the most out of my my competitive career and make a couple big splashes this year.
Okay, I got a crazy stat. Maybe you won't think this is crazy, but I have to say I was a little surprised looking it up. You have played, according to Statmando, 105 NT/DGPTs and majors, MPO majors in your career, and you've cashed at 104 of them. You only missed one, and that all the way up through last year. Do you remember the tournament you missed cash at?
Of course I do. I think about it all the time. It just happened a few years ago. It was in Vegas, the first tournament of the year. I remember I was super rusty, which I usually am, coming off a long winter in Minnesota. It was the first tournament. And at that time, I don't know if you guys remember, you probably don't, but I was over 300 straight tournaments cashing at that point. I think it was like 315 or something. And I remember...
You had a crazy streak.
I did. In Disc Golf Pro Tour, I remember they made a post, saying that right before the tournament. It completely jinxed me. But no, I do remember it very well. And I remember I threw out of bounds on the last hole, my drive. So I'm like, oh my gosh, it's over. I knew I was right on the cut line. And then I threw one of the best shots of my entire season to give myself like a 25-foot putt to save the par and cash by one stroke. And I doinked the putt high. The cash streak was over.
No.
So yes, that's yes, I remember it very clearly to answer your question.
Wow.
Cale, I want to apologize for Charlie going and looking for just the worst stat he possibly could and bringing it up here.
To be fair, it is
pretending like you're not going to remember.
It's a positive stat.
No, yeah, 100%. That's over 99.
It is.
That's over 99% cash rate. That's
it sure is.
That's almost unbeatable.
Do you remember the one?
Well, it's I just you've still been finishing inside the top 10 on tour here and there. But you're not a name we typically see at the top a lot these days, but you've still been cashing, every time you play.
Yeah, for sure.
Very impressive.
And it's the thing with playing disc golf at the top level is you get in the rhythm when you play every single week, right?
Right.
Things that are difficult just become second nature after you play in 3-4 straight pro tour events. And I haven't been able to do that. I'll like go home for a month, maybe pop out for a pro tour event, show up a day before, get a practice round in, and get 25th, and I'll be so disappointed in myself. And I'm like, well, what do you expect? You're not out here every week doing this like these kids are. So that's what I want to change. I don't want to give myself excuses. I don't want to, feel like I'm leaving stuff out there. I want to commit myself this year and try to do better.
Okay, so how is Discraft different from when you were previously with them?
Well, when I was previously with them, you only got a signature disc if you were a world champion. That was 2012 was my last year with them. And that was like a little bit of my frustration at the time. It was 2012. I think I was ranked number 3 in the world at that point. I'd won a few national tour events that year. I think I got 5th at Worlds. That was Macbeth's first world championship, and that was a crazy year at Worlds. It's kind of a side note, but I remember I was on lead card all week. We were all within 4 or 5 strokes the entire time. It was me, Macbeth, Ricky, and Johansson. And that final round, I remember Shoestrick shot a hot round past Johansson and I. So we were tied for 4th. I lost in a playoff to get in that final 9 with Macbeth's first world championship, but we were only like 5 strokes back of him. We were all... So anyway, long story short, I did not win Worlds. I got top 10 at USDGC that year, and so I was like top 3 ranked player in the world, and I was, they still were only people that had signature discs at Discraft was DOS essentially. And Prodigy was offering salaries and guaranteed money and stuff, which is something that other companies just weren't doing. But so in that time, Discraft has completely shifted that. They take care of their players better than anybody. They do so much stuff to build up the player brands. Like that's something that when I was there last week, I was so impressed by. You can just see it with all, the player logos on their team, the way that they represent them, the way that they build out merchandise for them and clothing and discs. And they've definitely just changed the entire culture and changed the entire sport of disc golf, I think, in my opinion. They're very innovative. They're doing new stuff with their production, with their quality control. Their baskets have gotten much better. They've pretty much just improved in all aspects, and they're just more willing to take risks, I think, now. I think they're really paying off for them.
Any chance we could get a ballpark number of what the deal looks like with Discraft?
With my deal?
Yeah.
I would love to share it. I just don't know technically if I'm able to, so I better not get in trouble.
All right.
I'll tell you, it's very good. I have a 16-month-old baby now, and I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't put me in a good position to support my family and further my career. And I apologize. I honestly don't know if I can say, so I better not.
It's all right. That's the typical answer, but I always try. So,
do you think I guess, do you fit into the Climo move at all? We've got the Climo Disc Golf. As we're recording this, we are under 1 hour away from the release of the website in some bigger sense. We will see what that is. There's maybe a feeling that Discraft is signing some of the more veteran players or ultra veteran like Climo as kind of like a bigger overall move. So do you fit into that picture?
I think a little bit, yeah. I mean, I kind of bridge the gap from, I battled against Climo for years, and then I've also played against, Barella and Hammis and the young kids too on the team. So I kind of bridged the gap, but I obviously am a veteran now. I think we are related in just the sense that Discraft wants to, take care of the people that have dedicated their lives to the sport and still mean something to people, and they want to preserve the history of it and kind of honor that, and do things for myself and for players like Climo, who was kind of being neglected, honestly, for decades. And I think what they're doing with Kenny is so exciting, and I think he deserves it and the sport deserves it, and Discraft was willing to step up and kind of make that happen. Again, it says a lot about them for taking that chance and for taking care of Kenny, and hopefully it's good for the whole game.
Are you planning on playing any of the Go Throw events?
Yeah, for sure. One of my events that I run is actually on the Go Throw tour.
Okay,
the Majestic.
that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Bigger thoughts about the tour as well.
Yeah. And I'm planning on playing the Eagles Crossing one as well, which is because I'm playing the Kansas City Wide Open Pro Tour, and then Eagles Crossing is the week before. But yeah, I think, more competition is better for everybody, right? It's better for the players. I don't think necessarily it's competition against the Pro Tour. Right now, it's kind of like a supplementary thing. But I think it's great. I love the formerly GK Pro boys. Now they're called Go Throw. I love those guys. I've been on a lot of skins matches with them. I've traveled with them. I was just in Puerto Rico with them a few weeks ago. And Luke Humphreys, he works harder than almost anyone in disc golf. Like, the guy's always on the phone, always grinding, always coming up with new ideas. So anything that they're doing, I'll definitely back them. When they asked if the Majestic would be on the tour, I said, of course. And I don't know, maybe at some point it will, keep bubbling up into greater things and potentially rival the tour. I don't know. But for now, I think even if it does push the Pro Tour to do new things, and it can only be good for the players and the consumers.
So I got to ask you then, because we were just talking to Isaac last week, and he mentioned that he was excited because the Go Throw Tours events were not going to be sanctioned by the PDGA. So is that true in the case of the Majestic?
I think they were originally trying to not have them be PDGA sanctioned, but I think in year one I was like, well, I already sanctioned the Majestic, so I'm not really going to go back on that. So I think they kind of said, all right, in year one, some of them will be unsanctioned, some of them won't be. So I don't know. I know there's some things that they think that the PDGA is not doing as well as they should potentially. So I think they want to kind of inspire change there. I'm not going to get too far into it because I don't want to speak for them, but I just know that in the year one, I said, well, the Majestic's already sanctioned, and they said, okay, well, yeah, that's just fine.
As someone who runs events, and are you at all concerned? Because I think that when you say why sanction an event, the number one answer I think for most event runners is, well, the insurance, right, and the coverage. Is that something that concerns you if next year they don't want the Majestic sanctioned, or is there a plan laid out to address that?
No, not really, because the Majestic is at two private courses. It's at Blue Ribbon Pines, and then it's at the Hollows, which is my new private course, which is 5 miles from Blue Ribbon Pines. So, we both properties already have really airtight insurance policies already. If it was going to be on venues that were public courses, it could be an issue, but I'm pretty sure, I'm just kind of thinking in my head, I think most of the Go Throw events are on private venues. So I really don't see that being too much of an issue. And I think that's part of what they want to do is go to more private venues and inspire more people across the country to build these disc golf sanctuaries. And that's where Go Throw likes to hang out.
What's your involvement with the preserve going to be moving forward?
It's still, although I'm not like technically involved with the business anymore, it's still my baby. It still feels like it. People still come up everywhere I go and tell me that, they want to come play the preserve and still associate me with it, obviously. But my only involvement is, I'm kind of in charge with anything course design related. Before I sold it, I made sure that, nothing can be kind of changed on the course without my approval. And so everything with the Disc Golf Pro Tour Preserve Championship, I'm in charge of making any tweaks that happen, laying out any ground rules with the courses themselves. But that's essentially it. They definitely will ask me for advice sometimes, but yeah, the only thing I'm really in charge of is anything design-wise.
Well, you're going back to Discraft, and I was chatting with you a little bit before the show, so I want to talk about it here. You've thrown Prodigy for a long time. Is it weird going back and throwing a whole new bag again after more than a decade of the exact same discs?
It is kind of weird. I was very dialed in with my bag that I had with Prodigy. But when I was going through my old boxes of discs, when I just got home last week, I found, my old Buzz that was actually in my bag for 7 years. I found an old magnet that I used to throw that's nice and beat in. So it is weird, but it's kind of exciting and fun. I know I've heard a lot of people who switch sponsors say it's like Simon, I heard him say it's kind of like inspirational to needed just something different in his life to kind of inspire him again. And I do feel a little bit of that. It's like when I first got my first box of Discraft discs about 3 weeks ago when I was still down in Charleston. I remember taking it out to the course, and I felt like a kid again. I was just so eager to throw every single disc. It's not going to be easy by any means, especially going down to Arizona this week and trying to throw over water on pretty much every single hole. But I'm excited.
Send you a big box.
I'm looking forward to the challenge though, and I'm just hoping that by end of February when the Florida Open happens, I'll be completely dialed in.
Follow up to that. What disc are you most excited to throw again? Or maybe it's a new one that they didn't have when you were at Discraft.
I gotta say, the Luna is insanely good. I've been seeing, Macbeth and Barella throw it for a couple years now. I've never thrown it in my life before a few weeks ago. And I cannot believe how far the thing goes for a putter. It's like, I don't throw very far, but I do have pretty good spin. So I'm able to throw putters and mids pretty far. And I'm literally throwing the Luna as far as my mid ranges. It's pretty unbelievable disc. It's very true flying. Yeah, I've been pretty amazed by that. And then the Athena is a disc that I didn't really think I was going to be throwing or know much about. And they sent me 2 of those, and I'm absolutely in love with it. It's a 7-speed. It's really just very workable. I can put it any, flat, hyzer. I just don't know if I've ever had a 7-speed disc that I've really been in love with before, and it's going to be fun.
You've played across eras. You were just mentioning that. You saw firsthand Macbeth coming up. Are you getting vibes of that same thing happening with Gannon?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. With Macbeth, I remember there was a few years where I was, when I was better than Paul, believe it or not, at the beginning of his career. And he kind of bubbled up and slowly got good. And all of a sudden, 2012 hit, and he just started sprinting from there. I feel like with Gannon, he kind of hit his greatness so early. 18 years old, he was already top 5 player in the world. And then this past year, he obviously is far and away the number 1 player. So I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, Macbeth has won 6 world titles and Gannon doesn't have any, but with Gannon's dominance and his skill set, it's pretty impressive. And yeah, it's definitely comparable with the greatness.
How has fatherhood changed your perspective on disc golf?
Gosh, you guys, that's another great question, because I had an idea in my head of what it would be like, once you're a father, everything's in perspective and, la, 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 who cares if I'm not playing well? It's honestly been exactly the opposite. I love being with my wife and my daughter, and if I'm gone for a week playing in a tournament and I'm away from them and I'm not playing well, things are not in good perspective for me. I'm like, what am I doing out here? I'm away from my family and I'm not even playing good disc golf. It's interesting. My wife is amazing and knows that, this is my profession. I need to play. So she understands, that I'm gone and does so much for our family. But yeah, it's only made me want to get better. Some people will say that your skill goes down once you become a father, but for me, I'm just more hungry to be better for my family and for myself, and so that one day she'll grow up and know what's actually happening in the world and understand that I'm a good athlete still. And so for me, it's just been really inspiring. I don't want to play poorly and be away from my family. So if I'm going to be out there, I want to play great.
Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. I guess, since you have many things going on, I kind of wonder how you prioritize in some ways. What are you hoping to get out of 2025?
That's a great question as well. What I want to get out of 2025 is essentially I feel like my business foundation is sound right now. So I want to, like, it's to a place where if I go do and go play more, things are going to be okay, and I'll be able to come back and grow on it in the future and continue to do all those things. So for 2025, I really want to focus on my competing. I want to get better. I want to work on my putting. I want to work on my distance. I want to make it so that when I go play at D-Glow, for example, one of the longest courses, that I'm not, conceding holes to par. I want to really try to push myself and get the most out of my body. And like I said, make a couple big splashes. I don't know if I'm going to get a win, but I want to put myself in contention. And, there's nothing like that juice that you get when, you're coming down the wire on a pro tour event and you're in contention for the win. I haven't felt that in a couple of years, and that's where I want to be.
Awesome, Cale. Well, good luck with everything this season. We'll you got some heavy hitters to go up against at the Memorial this weekend. What's you think you try to take it down?
Gosh, I would love to, but my goal at the Memorial is to finish my rounds at Fountain Hills with about as many discs that I started with. I'm really dialed in with my fairways and putters, but I'm still learning my distance drivers, trying to figure out, I got to find some nice overstable stuff for the wind. I just started putting with the Luna. I was putting with the Focus, and I tried a couple putts with the Luna, and it just felt so easy. So I just switched my putter like 2 days ago. So I don't know. I'll let you know tomorrow after I get a practice round in.
new bag things. Also, I see you're playing MP40, not MPO. So
yeah, and I'm
not quite as many heavy hitters.
I'm considering making the switch.
Are you?
The field in MP40 is so much smaller. They had to really shrink the field up this year because they were only allowed to do like one pool, I believe. But yeah, going against Gannon and Barella on Barella's home course with a brand new bag might not be the wisest decision I ever made, and I might take the opportunity to play MP40.
Understandable. All right. Well, congrats on the bag switch, and good luck with everything this season.
I appreciate it, boys. Thank you so much for having me.
Cale Leiviska with us here on the Upshot. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Upshot. Wow, that was an awesome interview.
It's really good.
Cale's great.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Like, there's nothing that says that you're obligated to, like, if you're being paid a salary by a company and you own shares in the company, you don't have to stay at the company. You can have your shares that have vested over time and you can leave. And that's what he's done.
Yep.
Like, that's logical if the deal was better, and he can still, like, he as he said, it's unclear what will happen. He could hang on to the Prodigy shares as long as he wants. I mean, it's probably going to be a little difficult to maybe ever realize value from those unless the company gets sold. So maybe somebody will buy him out. But if I were him, I wouldn't necessarily want to be bought out when Prodigy feels like it's at a low point. And if you do believe that the company can continue to grow from here, hold on to your shares. Maybe you get a big fat check someday.
I still think it would be I know of companies though that, use stock as bonuses, but there are rules about leaving the company and where you go and what you have to do with that stock if you do. So I just wasn't sure if Prodigy had that built in. Because it is weird to me. Like, you're right. Like, he can. There's no reason he couldn't. But it is weird to me that he's holding, like, he's got Prodigy stock while he's over at a competitor right now. The other thing that I found that was really interesting is I think that this interview was a little bit more honest than I expected. I have criticized Cale in the past because I think he's kind of jumped to Prodigy's defense in a way that felt a little tone deaf. And And then, you know, people kind of speculated that he was making this move after Will got the CEO, and he came out and he made another post that, you know, that was absolutely not the case, that he loves Will, they're good friends, and that had nothing to do with it, and he's really excited for Will. And so like I saw that post, and I'm like, okay, like, you know, Prodigy, and I almost wondered if Prodigy, like Cale was just another casualty of trying to offload team members, and that Prodigy was really just trying to cut down on expenses of team members. And that doesn't seem to be the case. Muted.
Maybe I should hit the unmute button. Listen, because he opted out.
Yes.
So he had a deal in place, and he said, hey, I got a better one.
Yeah.
Well,
we think is a better one, but it sounds like he was going to leave regardless.
How much was it about the money, and how much was it about the fact that he felt like he was being limited?
Yes,
by
that's it.
Prodigy doesn't have baskets available.
Yeah.
Prodigy's like going through it right now. Like there was a lot of that in the background that like Prodigy's struggling a little bit right now, and I don't think that seems like any kind of surprise.
No.
So to me it makes logical sense. Like you're going to have a support of a much bigger company behind you that can do more for you in terms of like helping you unlock doors for your disc design business. And just like, you know, I feel like it's a better place to be if you're thinking about, I am now in my 40s. I'm not going to really continue to be dominant at the professional MPO level anymore. Mm-hmm. And I want to be prepared for the kind of the next phase of my disc golf professional career. And that's probably going to be running tournaments, building courses, being an ambassador type stuff. And it just feels like maybe it's just a better fit. It sounds like he basically thought the same thing when he signed the last contract, but you know, he took the money.
Right. It makes a ton of sense now. Like it all clicks.
It all clicks.
I was surprised at how honest he was.
Yeah.
About the situation of Prodigy, and I appreciated that.
Yeah. Definitely interesting, and I genuinely hope we can have him back on to talk turkey about, you know, what's going on the disc golf tour.
Yeah,
like it's I feel like, you know, he just really has the wealth of experience to be able to talk about. We didn't talk too much about specifics of disc golf, but I bet he's great at talking about disc golf stuff too. He should be a commentator. Like
he should be a commentator.
He's got the talk skills, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, Climo time. Much to get to. So big video drops last week that basically like it's honestly a beautiful video. Mm-hmm. You should check it out if you haven't watched already. Talking about Climo's journey in disc golf, legacy. A new video is out today with the release of the sort of the product line that they have for now.
Yeah. The showing of the product line.
Not available yet, but
the announcement of the product
will be available. And it's also, I mean, just very, very nice production, editing. The story that it's telling makes a ton of sense. And basically, the short story here is Discraft is spinning out a new Climo brand. Climo will be involved in creating the discs that are released through this brand. They have 3 prototypes that will be available for sale starting tomorrow. They are not yet PDGA approved, not listed on the PDGA website as of this moment. Obviously, I'm sure that will be coming shortly, but maybe they're going to be taking feedback on this prototype run before they actually put them through for approval. So, you know, we got the logo. It's the Climo kind of cursive script with a little Climo head logo with the big ears. So, you know, they got the ears right. That's for sure. And they are releasing they're calling it, the putter is called the Champ. The mid is called the Bel Air, and the driver is called the Skyway. Josh, they certainly have familiar flight numbers and stylings.
Charlie, I don't know why they had to wait for PDGA approval. I think for that application, you just say copy paste IVR Rock and Wraith, and that's work's done for you, right? Listen, they don't have a like profile picture of the mid range, but they even say on the website for the Bel Air that it is the familiar beaded feel. I wonder what that could feel like, Charlie. I just, yeah, it's. I went to Reddit. I went to Reddit after this announcement, and on Reddit, the top comment was, "Oh, cool! So the same 3 discs that Climo had at Innova," and it's like, it's weird because it doesn't feel like it. It feels like we all know it, and that's what it feels like, and I just don't know. I'm really curious to hear about these discs from people who get them and throw them, because I don't know how it's going to just drastically differ than the discs, like I said, that he was throwing at Innova.
This is just all. It all makes sense how they're approaching it from the marketing perspective.
Sure.
But I get a little sense of all hat, no cattle. Because, like, unless the actual discs deliver and feel like they are better versions of the unbelievable other zillion options that you have in these categories.
Yes.
Like, okay, if the Skyway flies better and people prefer it to the Wraith, people will buy it. But it's not like Discraft has a great track record with drivers, right? And, like, is it going to outcompete the Wraith? I have a hard time seeing it, to be honest. But I don't know, like, who this is for. Yeah. Because it feels like a brand that's just kind of a little bit targeted towards beginners and intermediate players who, like, because you look at the weight classes offered, right? They have 160 gram, 160 166 for the putter, 167 to 169 for the mid, 155 to 159 for the driver. So they have some lighter weight options, which is appropriate for certain players. I'm not saying it's not a great idea. Just, again, it's like, this doesn't feel like we're going to be getting like cutting edge products for top level pros in today's game, and that's fine.
And that may be what video implicates as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because, you know, as we were just talking to, I don't remember who we were talking to, but beginners make up such a big part of the new disc purchasing market.
Yeah.
Targeting products to them makes sense. But I wonder a little bit if it's like, I'd rather throw the disc that Climo threw to win his 12 championships and you just buy the Innova ones.
That's,
you know,
that was my hesitation right from the get-go. And it's like, okay, so this does not feel marketed, like you said, to a top level line. So, you know, if I want performance, this isn't the branding that I think is the right direction if that's the goal. I feel like the old heads who, you know, remember watching Climo win those world championships, like, I don't think they're going to switch off of a rock to come throw this other rock. And then you have beginners, but the problem is that Climo holds the least amount of sway with people who are brand new to the sport.
Yeah, I mean, I think it feels like a little bit like it's kind of like a Jordan line type thing, right? Where they're trying to establish like a legacy brand. But if I'm being honest, Climo just isn't as cool as Jordan.
Right.
Right? Like,
yeah.
It's not fair to compare anybody to Jordan, maybe.
Sure.
But it's very interesting because it certainly could work. It certainly could work. And I already corrected my article release about this, but I will make the correction here on the pod as well. Take the mulligan. When it was originally reported that he was going to Discraft, I wrote that he was making $200,000 plus a year in a multi-year deal. Basically, it was a misunderstanding on my part talking to folks about the deal. The number, the 200,000 plus number, was not an annualized number. It was a total deal number. So he's making more than 200,000 for the multi-year term, which makes a lot more sense, feels a lot more in line with like what the expectations could be. And I'm sure, I don't know if we're ever going to get contract details, but I'm sure there's royalty incentives. I mean, you got to imagine he's getting money from every single one of the sales of his Climo disc golf line. So this could end up being very lucrative for him, even if they don't hit it out of the ballpark
Right.
with sales. I don't know, like could Discraft make a better rock than Innova? I could buy that. They make great mids.
Yeah. But like the thing is Discraft doesn't excel in like the base plastic. And that's what people love about the rock is like the people who bag rocks bag 150 of them. And they've been in their bags for different ranges of time. So the rock does everything, right? Like, because they throw base plastic rocks. That's what most people throw. So I don't know if this is base plastic. I don't really know the description of the plastic. So maybe this is base, but like it took a lot of work for me to find a buzz that was in the base plastic I liked. And that's my one gripe with Discraft mids. And so, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird, man. And I and like, I think you have some power if you put it with Discraft because then you can do like Climo Macbeth stuff.
They could still do that.
They could.
Because they're not hiding from the fact that it's a Discraft product.
And that is true. But it's clearly meant to be a separate brand.
Definitely.
And Discraft has DGA as well. And they have their Discraft line. And so it feels like we're trying to put a circle peg in a square hole right now, and I'm just not sure what to expect of it.
Here's what I will say. People are going to buy the merch, but here's what I want. Make a Climo hat, just the script, no face.
Yeah.
I will buy it. I'm a little unsure about the face.
I agree.
On everything.
I'd buy a Climo hat as well with just the script.
But I feel like people are going to rock the polos. Will this be a huge success? Man, it's quite the risk, it feels like, to take this on in the midst of like a little bit of an unsettled market.
Sure.
But again, I think it does come down to, can these discs break through from wow, I love this I love this disc.
Yeah.
And it just feels a little weird to have like the kind of like iconic signature discs from Climo's days at Innova, like with his name on it, be essentially the first three products released. Now, I mean, it makes sense from a Kenny perspective, right? Climo's like, these are the discs that I want. These are the discs that I've always thrown. But it just, I don't know. It's a bold move. Yeah. And I just wonder if this feels like if they're not great discs, it's going to be like a little flat.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. And you're right. Like if someone buys these discs, I'm sure people will. If one of our listeners buys these discs, please email us and tell us what you think. Like, what's the plastic like? Is it just straight ESP plastic or is it a different blend? How do they fly? If you've thrown a rock, how does it feel or throw compared to a rock? Like, someone tell us, please, because I'm curious. I'm curious to know.
It's going to be interesting. I think the marketing and the rollout has been very impressive.
Agreed.
And maybe that will be enough. And I'm not saying that Discraft can't make great discs. That like these could end up being great discs, and people are like, "Hey, you got to get this one." But it's already such a crowded marketplace for frisbees. Like, it's hard to see this like cracking through besides the marketing.
Well, and here's the other part about it. This is very different than Anthony Barella's announcement, who comes out and says, "Yeah, I took this cicada and I tweaked it a little bit for my arm speed and how I like to throw it. Here's what you can, if you want to try it, here's my signature cicada. This is it's cicada."
But that's also a disc that's not for a lot of people. Right.
Well, but right then it's like, okay, now you have one that like, I understand the role that disc is supposed to play in the world, right? I don't know what these discs are supposed to do in the world.
They're supposed to clone.
Right. They're supposed to clone some of the best sellers of all time.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. I need to wait till I see them.
Yeah. Gotta get hands on some for sure.
Yeah.
All very interesting. We will see what happens. The off season is starting to come to a close. We kind of have this like what's going on with Ricky situation. There's still a few players out there who haven't been announced to deals. Gavin Rathbun perhaps going to be making a signing because he was open bag last year. Maybe we'll see him land somewhere. There's been rumors of Prodigy signing somebody interesting. So a couple things left. Huh?
Germ
has not been announced. That is the other thing that's pending.
Yeah.
So might have more info by the end of this week. Anyway, we'll be back with you on Thursday right here on The Upshot. Thanks for listening.